What is good, Ambush? And welcome to interview 100 of the Desert Tiger podcast. Yeah, it's that exciting. It is interview 100. After 2.5 years, we have finally reached this moment. Here with me, your host on the podcast. My name is Colton G. And this week on the DTP, I am joined by Ayla Tesler Mabe of Ludic. We're going to be giving you a description about Ludic and Ayla here very quickly. But first, we have to jump into a little bit of business, tell you about what's going on with the Tiger. Have you guys headed on over to ilovedtp.com to check out the new hats and beanies that we recently have released? They're pretty dang sick. You're going to look amazing in it. I can already tell that it fits you perfectly, and you can check it out and grab it on over at ilovedtp.com so you can rep the show everywhere you go. You can also head on over to our YouTube channel at Desert Tiger Ent and check out the vlog we've been releasing recently. We're going to be releasing episode 6 this upcoming week, and you don't want to miss it. Yeah, it's like that. All right. What do you say we get into describing Ludic for you? Yeah, let's go. Ludic, showing spontaneous and undirected playfulness. With the energy that comes from Ludic's sound, you quickly understand that it's probably one of the best ways to describe this trio that has been classified as alien motown and SOULFUNKJAZZPOP. Yes, that's one word, and yes, it's all caps. A little over a year since releasing their first track together, and the group has already begun to gain a heavy momentum. Being named top 10 in CBC's most recent Searchlight competition, receiving over 1 million Spotify streams and opening for high-level acts like Catfish and Bottlemen, to name a few of their feats. Well, you can add their new single, Love Me Like, to that list, because it's about to accomplish the feat of being jammed, stuck directly inside of your head. The group is made up of the Cunningham brothers, Max and Rhett, along with Ayla Tesler Mabe, all accomplished multi-instrumentalists that continue to prove their consistency with writing addictive tunes brought together by a local jam session. Ayla Tesler Mabe has built herself quite a reputation with her guitar skills as well, learning from the Musicians Institute of Hollywood, earning a chance to work with prestigious brands like Fender, and even building a YouTube following with over 14 million views. Ayla Tesler Mabe of Ludic joins the DTP to discuss how she met the brothers Cunningham, and how together they have been spreading their style of spontaneous energy with songs like their new single, Love Me Like, which we are going to be playing for you guys right now before we jump into this conversation with Ayla. So why don't we go ahead and give that a spin. This is Ludic's brand new single. It dropped today. This is Love Me Like.
I know that you want it, see that you got it, stuck in my head, nah. Let me go and say it, your heart is overrated, know it for me. The one thing that I ever really wanted from you, put me in your field of view, let me like. Eyes wide, I'm elated by your side, but I'm faded, so let me like. Love me like you never meant to. Loving you, it's a war. undirected. And now I know. Oh, you've been playing this game of mine, taking up all of my time. Now it's your turn. Double thought, think I got it. Your lies, yeah, I bought it. So let me lie.
The Desert Tiger Podcast.
Hello, Ayla. This is Colton.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am doing fantastic today. It's beautiful and sunny outside. How are you?
Good, I'm doing quite well, thank you. Yeah, it's not beautiful and sunny. I would just say beautiful because every day is beautiful in some way, I guess. But yeah, I'm doing okay, thanks.
Every day is a gift, so I agree with this sentiment.
Yeah. There we go.
I like the mindset. I like the mindset for sure. All right, so you're ready to rock out an interview here, eh?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, fantastic. So, Ludic's new single, Love Me Like, drops today, May the 1st. But of course, we want to get into a little bit of the details of how Ludic met, and we want to get into a little bit of the details of how Ayla Tesler Mabe got to this point as well. So I want to get a little bit into your background. I saw that you started picking up stringed instruments pretty young. What exactly influenced you to start with music?
It's a good question. I have always loved music since before I even knew that you yourself could actually create it. I thought it was just something that existed, when I was younger, something that was always playing around the house. And it wasn't until my mom introduced my brother and I to the video game Rock Band that I realized that you could at the very least play a video game that allowed you to pretend like you were creating music. And then that led me to realize that you could actually yourself pick up an instrument and create music. And that's when I really just fell in love with the idea of being a musician. Even before I obviously was that, I, at that point, really wanted to play guitar because I fell in love with the Beatles. And my parents were very generous. They helped me find a little starter guitar. I took like 2 lessons, and then I just kind of left it at that point. And it just, I don't know, it just wasn't the right time for me to get into music, I suppose. But I did start playing the cello at that point when I was 8 because we had to pick an instrument in the school orchestra or school band, and I chose the cello. And I loved the cello until I started turning it on its side and pretending like it was a bass guitar. And that was the moment when I realized I should probably start playing the bass guitar. and I did. I was, I believe, 10 at the time, and I loved it. And then that, again, reignited this sort of drive to play the electric guitar, because I've just always felt so drawn to that instrument, more so than any other instrument. But more so than any other instrument, yeah. But what's funny is I actually just got off the phone with a music store nearby to rent a cello again, because I want to get back into playing the cello and, you know, orchestral stringed instruments. But yeah, that's sort of where it began for me.
Oh, wow. So the influence is taking you back to your roots now.
Definitely, yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So, were you taking it like very seriously once you were playing the cello and bass? Like, were you learning music theory at that point, or were you getting more adept with that once you actually started to transition more to the guitar?
Yeah, I definitely don't think music theory was really on my mind at all. I think I just wanted to play first and foremost. And that being said, when I started playing the bass, I, funnily enough, almost immediately started playing in the jazz combo. I went to a fairly small school, but also my teacher saw that I was really passionate. So when their like grade 10 or 11 bass player couldn't make it, their next call was the little 11-year-old girl who had just started playing. And so, I mean, I could read music quite well at that time, which is funny because now I most certainly would not consider myself someone who is particularly good at sight reading, you know, like notes on a staff. I think chord sheets are another story, just because with guitar, being in a bunch of big bands throughout high school, that was something I was sort of forced to do. But yeah, with guitar, I think that's when I really started getting into theory, and it was because of that big band stuff and the introduction to jazz. It was sort of like the slow descent into the pits of music theory darkness, because once you're there, you just keep going deeper and deeper into it, and it's amazing. I love it, and it hasn't changed my perspective on the way I feel music and the way I hear music or see music, beyond giving me the ability to, I guess, understand it. And so I guess it's just as I approached all of these instruments, first and foremost wanting to play them and like make music and figure out how to, you know, emote through them, then I guess the next logical step was figuring out like why did those sounds sound the way they did and make me feel the way they did, which obviously sometimes you can't explain with words or theory, but it is pretty cool to be able to hear that wonderful Stevie Wonder chord progression where he goes to, you know, like a 4, diatonic major 4, and then a minor 4, and then a flat 7/7, and resolves it back to the 1 chord, and then you can say, hey, I want to write a song using that, and then you know how to do it because you figured it out with music theory. So yeah, there you go.
All right, fantastic. I love the depth that you're giving here. Awesome, I love it. So at what point did you start releasing your YouTube content, making your own videos and editing those as well, of you learning these different various songs?
That was probably right when I was 12, because I had a friend named Jack, who's still a great friend of mine, who at that time was a photographer, and he still is, but he loved photography, I loved music, and we both sort of challenged each other to make Instagram accounts where we would just like post, you know, he would post photos, I would post music, and then from there it just, I don't know, it kind of made sense to be using that as a way for myself to push myself and track my progress on the instrument, but also just to share with other people. And slowly over time I just saw how it gave me this really incredible platform to share with people. And yeah, it started with Instagram, and then the idea was I'd use Instagram to help for when I wanted to eventually make a YouTube channel, and I could sort of drive that traffic in that direction. And yeah, that was sort of my mindset with that.
And you did drive quite a bit of traffic there. You've got like over 4 million views, I think, from what I had seen. 14 million views.
Ah, That's a heavy flow traffic jam right there.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of traffic. Hopefully nobody got hurt in the process.
Yeah, I hope not.
All right, so at what point do you start beginning to play in other bands that aren't just like the high school bands that normally you would get through classes?
Yeah, that was kind of right around when I got into the bass. About a year later, I started playing in this all-kids Led Zeppelin cover band, and we played at the Vancouver Art Gallery a bunch of times, which is just one of my favorite memories. I still look back at that and smile all the time. That was kind of the first time. And then from there, I mean, I was thinking about it today. I played with a lot of musicians, younger and older, sat in with a lot of bands, tried jamming with like a lot of people. And I guess that's just sort of been prevalent ever since I started playing in that Led Zeppelin cover band. I would just go to like every jam session and every open mic I possibly could and sit in with every band I possibly could in the area. And yeah, that's sort of where it began.
Okay, fantastic. So definitely a lot of jamming. So is someone that a lot of people nowadays would consider a guitar virtuoso. A lot of people that know that you can shred sometimes would be like when they see you playing in a band like Ludic or a band like Calpurnia might think that, oh, well, this isn't necessarily like the full of your ability, but at the same time, like you are writing what the song needs, not necessarily what your abilities are capable of. So did you learn that from those various jam sessions, or was that something that you learned while you were learning theory?
Oh, wow. Well, I firstly really appreciate you saying that. That's very, those are very kind words. Thank you. Well, I guess this is one of those things where, you know, people, when they're trying to make a case against theory, they're like, see, theory doesn't teach you feel and emotion and, you know, playing with sensibilities of the context of the whole song. And I mean, that's true. So at the end of the day, no, it wasn't theory really at all. It was experiencing other musicians. And then I remember I had this amazing, humbling moment right when I started playing guitar where I saw this other young kid who's about my age playing Soul Shine by the Allman Brothers. And I tried to play it as well. And I listened to his version and I listened to my version. And I'm like, my version just sucks compared to his. And it's like we're playing the same notes. We were bending at the same time. We were doing all the same stuff. But his version just had all of this soul in it, and mine really didn't. And then that was just like getting hit over the head with this realization that there is something more to what makes someone great on an instrument. Not to say that I am great, but just sort of like with that awareness of like, how can I always push myself further? And at the end of the day, I'm of the belief that it doesn't really matter how good of a guitar player you are if you're playing over a bad song. And there's this incredible quote by Quincy Jones. I'm sort of paraphrasing, but it's this idea of, I think he said something like, you could take the best singer in the world and have them sing over a terrible song, and it's still a terrible song, but, you know, have the worst singer in the world sing over an incredible song, and you can, you know, make them a star. Basically to say that at the end of the day, it's always about the song first. And the only reason I play guitar is to create music that, you know, moves people in some way. And so, like, yeah, maybe when I'm considering laying down a solo in the studio, I could play, you know, a much more technically flashy triplet run or something like that, but maybe that's just not what the song calls for. And at the end of the day, that's sort of what I'm thinking about first and foremost, like what serves the song, what serves the music, how am I going to be able to reach people emotionally? And yeah, that was a good question, though. Thank you.
No worries. No worries at all. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So let's touch a little bit into your first band that I guess broke, we would say, that being Calpurnia. What was that experience like for you, being a young musician, suddenly being thrust into a spotlight, being featured on shows like Jimmy Kimmel, being like having the opportunities to go at things like NAMM, touring, playing sold out shows? at such a young age.
Yeah.
Was that overwhelming for you? What was the experience like?
Wow. I mean, it was a bit of all of the above. I think what I take away most from that experience is just how I was given this unbelievable opportunity to learn firsthand what it's kind of like to be in the industry doing all of those things. But learning about it in such a sheltered environment because, you know, to be completely honest, like I know when we sold out a show and let's say there were 2,000 people there, I knew for a fact that a lot of the people there, if not the vast majority, maybe didn't even know my name, right? Like at the end of the day, I knew and am quite aware of the reality of how that band came to be and like why we ended up on the Jimmy Kimmel show and all of that. But at the same time, to be able to see some of the people who, again, were really impacted by the music and the band and, you know, really did care deeply about what we were doing, like that was incredible. And it made the whole thing incredibly worth it in that regard. And also, like I said, the learning experience, like being able to go to the Jimmy Kimmel show and like see what that kind of experience is like, or those bigger festivals. Just, yeah, as an educational experience. It's not something you could ever learn without actually doing it. And so, yeah, it was crazy. I'll just sum it up by saying crazy.
Honestly, crazy might be one of the only words you can use to describe such a wonderful whirlwind. And I want to find out just how you went ahead and met those crazy Cunningham brothers. You know, the other two members of Ludic. We're even going to be spinning you another one of Ludic's songs so that you can get down and jam out to this amazing band. Once again, before we jump back into this conversation with the incredibly talented Ayla Tesler Mabe, before we get there though, we just got to update you with all the cool happenings over at Desert Tiger. Have you guys headed on over to ilovedtp.com to check out all the new merch? I mean, you guys have probably already heard me mention the new hats, the new beanies. Have you guys heard me mention that they're selling like wildfire and they're going to be out soon and we're going to have to be doing reorders? But unfortunately, reorders are probably going to take some time due to the COVID crisis. So if you're wanting to lock yourself down some DTP merch before they go back on reorder, the best way to do that is to head on over to ilovedtp.com right now and get yourself what you're looking for. Also, have you checked out our YouTube page over at Desert Tiger Ent? We've been releasing a vlog there recently, and this week we're going to be releasing episode 6 of that vlog, and that's going to be a frequently asked questions /AMA episode. Don't worry, this is only going to be part 1 of these. We're going to be doing AMAs for a while because you guys have a lot of fantastic questions, and if you guys want to send your questions in to get answered on one of those AMA episodes, one of those vlog episodes, you can send those on over to desert.tiger.podcast@gmail.com. If you want to shout out, we can go ahead and do that. If you want to stay anonymous, that is also an option, and we will do that for you as well. All right, you guys, what do you say it's about time we got back into some Ludic? Because it is going down. It's going to be amazing. Oh, yeah. Because it's time to party along to Want You.
What you running around now? What you thinking about now? You're complicating everything that I've been saying, but you might be right, see. And I know I always want what I can't have, and I always know what I can't have. Want you, baby, no, I want you. Nothing else I could do. Keep myself away from you. Want you, baby, no, I want to. Everything we've been through. Keep myself away from you. Oh, you think you got got it. Oh, you think you got it, yeah, you got it now. Got it now. Quantify your feelings, multiplying all the reasons to let it go, let it flow. There ain't no rhyme, no reason to be uptight. I'm feeling you by my side, straight squeezing, holding me tight, heart's bleeding. Want you, baby, know I want you. Nothing else I could do. Keep myself away from you. Want you.
Desert Tiger Podcast.
Okay, no, I can definitely see how it would be a whirlwind, and even while some of this whirlwind is going on at some points, you still manage to connect with the Cunningham brothers at a neighborhood jam session. So tell me about how you ended up meeting the other two members of Ludic.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, the concept for Ludic kind of started way before the sort of Calpurnia thing happened, because I, up until that point, like I said, was playing with a lot of different people, just sort of jamming and trying to make things work. And I had two friends from school that I was playing in a band with, and it was really fun. But I wasn't sure that I'd found any people who were as serious about the whole thing as I was, in the sense that they wanted to like drop everything and like do music and, you know, devote themselves to this band, and like we could grow together and all the good stuff. And so I had my wonderful musical mentor, Sammy, put up a post on Facebook, just sort of talking about my situation and what I was looking for. And the Cunningham brothers' father reached out and told me a little bit about them, and I was very intrigued. So we jammed together for the first time at that neighborhood jam you mentioned, and it was amazing. And that was kind of like early 2017 was when we first started, you know, trying to play music together. And it was just so cool because, like I said, up until that point, when I was playing with people, it was always centered around, you know, like covers and learning other people's music. But almost immediately, Max and Rhett, they just wanted to jam and start writing. And, like, I hadn't had that experience before. So it was like the chemistry was very apparent immediately because this was something unlike anything I'd ever experienced in my life up until that point. So, yeah.
Because usually a lot of artists will be like, oh, well, let's play something similar to what we think we want to make, rather than just being like, well, I've already been practicing this music for years, so we already kind of know what the vein we want to go in is, so why don't we just go for it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly it. It's like I've definitely been in situations where some people had very set ideas about, you know, what they wanted things to be, and then that can be really stifling for creativity, because then it's like, if you have the end product in mind, then it becomes a game of how can we get to that destination. But then if we're just enjoying the process and we're not even thinking about, where this could end up, then you kind of end up with the kind of situation which I think we're in now, where we don't even really know how to describe our music in terms of like, oh, it's clearly this genre or it's clearly this genre. Like, I really don't know. And to me, that's so exhilarating as an artist, and it's just very inspiring. And yeah.
Well, truly paving your guys' own path with your own brand of alien motown, I believe I saw it described as somewhere. So what is your guys' writing process like? Does one of you bring something to the table? Do they create a groove and bring it? Like, is it just sort of natural where anyone can bring whatever they have?
Yeah, well, a bit of both of those. I mean, it's truly a ludic experience, because, I mean, that word actually is a word in the English language that basically means, spontaneous and undirected playfulness. And it just sort of feels like that. Like, either they'll start sort of like jamming a groove, or we'll start just sort of jamming collectively and see what happens. Or lately, a lot of the songs have sort of come from one of us bringing in a more developed idea, and then from there, just sort of seeing what happens when we put it all together. And I love that experience of having a song that I bring in that's like, a verse chorus idea, and I'm sort of like sitting with it, and I'm like, yeah, I feel pretty good about this, and then I bring it to them, and instantly they're like, hey, why don't we try it in this other groove and see what happens? And then immediately I'm like, oh, wow, this just added a whole other layer to the song, and I love it, and it's just so cool.
Because sometimes you have to actually take those steps to see, well, I'm kind of thinking this, and then someone else goes, oh yeah, now I'm feeling that. I can see where that can go.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So when it comes to the lyrics, is there a chief lyricist, or is that also a community feeling as well?
Yeah, definitely community feeling. I mean, some songs are lyrics that I've written, like especially songs where, like, if I've come in with this idea, usually I'll have some lyrics to that, and same with ideas that anyone else comes in with. There definitely are some songs that have been, us sitting together and just coming together and seeing what we come up with. And like I said, it's sort of different for every song, and it's just whatever feels right in the moment.
Okay, awesome. How did you guys end up getting connected with your producer, Ryan Worsley?
Oh, that was just serendipitous, happy. I mean, it wasn't, I guess, an accident, because I guess Ryan discovered us. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, the fact that it happened was just a gift from above. He's allowed us to explore ourselves and just become exactly what we've wanted to become. And originally the idea was we were going to record it ourselves. I have a studio set up at my home, but the Cunninghams do as well. And I think we were planning to record there, and we actually sort of started that process. And then Ryan reached out, because I think actually maybe it was a happy accident. He, by chance, stumbled into one of our shows, and we were playing at like the Railway Club or like some bar like that, and he caught the last bit of our set, and I think that's when he sort of found out about us. And then he reached out, and we're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Yeah, okay. And then it's just been like the perfect partnership, and he's just an incredible collaborator for us to work with. So yeah.
Definitely helping create that spontaneous, playful energy. So you guys finally get into the studio, you finally start releasing music. What has the feedback been like so far to you guys? I mean, honestly, myself, I might have to say you might be one of my new favorite bands, but what is the rest
Wow.
of the feedback been like?
Wow. Well, I mean, again, overwhelmingly positive. I'll never take for granted the fact that there are people who actually listen to any music that I put out. Like, that to me, I can't even conceive of that. Like, that's just, it still seems so foreign to me that, like, I could put a song out and people will listen to it in their own time and actually form opinions on it. And, like, that just, it's crazy to me. And, so humbled. All of us are so humbled by, some of the reactions and some of the, I guess, accolades. Like, it was such a surprise well, I mean, I'm not surprised for Ryan, but the surprise was when I think, the Junos were like, oh, we nominate Ryan for Engineer of the Year, and we're like, yeah, no surprise, Ryan deserves it. And then with one of our songs, and when I read that for the first time, I was like, that is crazy. I cannot believe that. And yeah, so I mean, stuff like that feels surreal beyond anything else. So yeah.
No, it's pretty crazy how even if it's not necessarily you, Ludic, being like nominated, it is one of your songs, so you're associated with that moment, and that's pretty damn cool.
For sure, yeah. I mean, the fact that we're able to work with, Ryan, who's obviously amazing, and that in and of itself, I think the fact that there are people like that who are on our team, very willingly, it's like they want to be there, is maybe the greatest, most humbling thing about it thus far. And I mean, it will continue to be for sure. But yeah, it's all very amazing. It takes my breath away. It's so exciting.
Well, I'm glad that you're excited about it. And one exciting thing is the fact that you guys just released Love Me Like. Let's talk a little bit about that single, its creation process, a little bit about maybe the lyrics of the song.
Yeah, sure. Well, that one, Max had some ideas for lyrics, and a lot of those ideas, obviously have remained in the song. But that was definitely one where once we were in the studio, we all sort of reworked certain parts. And the idea of the song that Max had sort of begun was a song sort of about a one-sided relationship that was just clearly not healthy. It's just your classic not healthy one-sided relationship story. And I think one of my favorite lines there's a line that is like, double thought, think I've got it, just because obviously the other person is very deceiving, all that kind of thing. Though, of course, interpret the lyrics however you'd like to. But that line sort of came about because we were sitting there just thinking about that idea of like, Max was like, oh, what's that term from 1984 by George Orwell? And I'm like, oh, I think double thought sort of, and we sort of like came up with that, and we're like, oh, that's the perfect way to describe it, like that cognitive dissonance. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
No, I definitely love the lyrics too, because when you get hit with the energy of the song, and like at first you're like, oh yeah, it's a love song, and then once you actually like break it down and you like listen to the chorus, and it's like, love me like you never meant to, and it's like, oh wait, what? It's like, oh dang.
Yeah, I like songs that sort of unravel as they go on, and they sort of have layers that deepen as you hear more of the story, I suppose.
Okay, awesome. So, of course, unfortunately, the release of the song is happening during a worldwide crisis. So how has the situation affected your guys' release plan?
Well, that's a good question. I guess the song itself is going out as planned, in the sense that regardless of the situation, the song would be out on streaming platforms and all that good stuff. But yeah, we definitely like to intertwine the music we put out with, visual imagery. And so we love doing photo shoots with our amazing creative producer, Ronnie, who takes these beautiful film shots of us, and we've done a lot of those in the past. And then obviously we couldn't do that now, which is too bad, so we had to do like iPhone self-timer photo shoots in our own homes. And then obviously we wanted to create a music video for it, which clearly isn't going to happen now. But instead we thought that we would try to make do with the situation and make the best with what we had. And so as a result, the video that has come out now is, I think, a great reflection of, some parts of the direction we wanted to go in for the video, though obviously very much making light of the fact that we can't do that now. So it's just sort of like, instead of us being able to go into a studio and, put up really cool lights and have, all of these cool costumes and makeup and that kind of thing. We're, putting TikTok filters on us dancing in our basement. So, I guess a compromise that's been made, but nonetheless, I think it still captures, what we were hoping to do with the song anyways, which is ultimately to put it out there and share it with people. So there you go.
Yeah, and it definitely still, kind of fits, once again, that spontaneous playfulness energy, because even just with the filters and you guys dancing and getting down, once again, that's something that your fans can, maybe get inspired to do their own video to, or maybe just decide to jump off of their couch and maybe, give them just a little 4-minute distraction while they bust out a groove. And
I mean, I could only hope so. That would be, I think, the greatest possible outcome of this whole thing. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Well, before I ask you my last question, Ayla, where can the listeners of the Desert Tiger podcast find out more about Ludic and Ayla Tesler Mabe?
Well, if you happen to be interested about me, you don't have to be, but if you happen to be interested, all you'd have to do is, I guess, Google my name, Ayla Tesler Mabe. I believe I'm the only Ayla Tesler Mabe in the world, so it should come up, all of the stuff I've done. And yeah, just on whether it's YouTube or Instagram, or as of today, TikTok. I went there. You will find me. And with Ludic, similarly, if you look up Ludic Official, Ludic Band, we have a YouTube, we have an Instagram. We do have a TikTok as well now, because we have realized that TikTok is kind of taking over the music industry as we speak. So you can find us there. And, of course, all of our music streaming on all streaming platforms. And that's how I would answer that question you just asked.
All right, fantastic. Yes, TikTok seems to be having its little revolution now, that after a long time of people saying and completely shooting it down and saying it's for little kids, and now you see all sorts of people are on there now.
Yeah, it's only bad if you make it bad. I mean, there are some really funny people on there. Like some of the comedians I really like are on there making funny stuff. So it's not just for lip syncing videos.
Definitely not. That's one thing I thought one day as I downloaded it and I saw that The Rock is on there, and I was like, am I cooler than The Rock? No.
Yeah.
Okay, I can probably download TikTok then.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree, yeah. No one's cooler than The Rock.
Isn't that the truth? Okay, so last question. Say somebody that is listening to this maybe is sitting at home. Maybe they've been having a guitar just sitting in the background, an instrument that they've been just letting collect dust after a few lessons. What would you say to that person to maybe help get them to pick those strings back up and to start learning once again?
Well, firstly, I'll say, just because this unfortunately seems like the perfect opportunity to do so, I am teaching private lessons just in lieu of the touring and stuff that we're doing, like on Lesson Face. If you found my Instagram or YouTube, you'd see the link there. But more importantly, because I think given the times we're in now, finding something that you love and brings you joy is more important than anything, really. And I'd say the process of starting something is by far the hardest part, but I really do believe in exponential returns, especially when it comes to playing the guitar, because the amount of joy it has brought me and the amount of solace it's brought me in really difficult times of my life, it's so worth it. And just being able to turn to music in those difficult times, which, I mean, obviously we're all universally in right now, I think would make your days brighter. And I can only hope that other people discover the love of music that I've discovered, because it's amazing. So all I'm going to say is if you want to play guitar, or you even have the slightest inkling that you might want to, do it. You have to. For yourself. You have to do it. That's what I would say to that question.
And if you need a little bit of inspiration, just go check out Ayla's YouTube and watch all of her amazing videos and realize that she too once was letting her guitar collect dust.
It's true. I was terrible.
All right. Thank you so very much for joining me today, Ayla.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Darling, who's to say we can't be together? Oh, I don't know how much longer I can wait. When you walk in, you only bring cold weather. Is your love that I await? Call me if you want to. Come on, let me through to your side, and I keep on freaking out. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Pick up the phone and give me a call whenever. When I'm with you, I can barely feel the rain, and I don't need to know you'll be here forever. I just want to know if you feel the same. Call me if you want to. Come on, let me through to your side, and I keep on freaking out. Oh my, oh my, it's not my fault. We're meant to be together. You know it's true. I can see it in your eyes. Take my hand, I'll follow you wherever. Let's just pretend the sun is in the sky. Call me if you want to. Come on, let me through to your side, and I keep on freaking out. Oh my, oh my, oh my.
That track that you were just grooving to, you know, the one we literally just played. It is called Call Me. In the middle of the show, we played Want You. And we kicked off today's episode of the DTP with Ludic's brand new song, Love Me Like. You can find all three of these tracks as well as the rest of Ludic's catalog over on, yeah, you guessed it, your favorite music streaming service. It's that easy. When you're there, go ahead and hit follow so that you can stay up to date with when Ludic releases more music. You guys know I've already gone and done it because I wasn't kidding when I said this might be one of my new favorite bands. Their music is friggin' incredible. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Ayla Tesler Mabe of Ludic here today. And I want to give one last roaring Desert Tiger Podcast thank you to Ayla for joining us here today. I have to give a roaring Desert Tiger Podcast thank you to Mackenzie and the team over at Strut Entertainment for hooking this conversation up. And I have to give one final last roaring Desert Tiger Podcast thank you to you guys, the listeners, for, well, tuning in today. If you're new to the show and you want to find out what Desert Tiger's all about, why don't you go ahead and hit subscribe? Maybe you want to go ahead and review the show. 5 stars would help us out a ton. Over on iTunes or Podchaser, I would be so very thankful to you. And, well, maybe you enjoyed this episode enough that you want to go ahead and share it on your social media. If you did, if you tagged either me, the Colton G, the Desert Tiger Podcast, or Ayla Tesler Mabe or Ludic, we would love that, because then we can go ahead and show you the respects that you deserve for showing us some love, you know? Because that's how the circle works. Can you guys believe that we have released 100 separate interviews here on Desert Tiger? We even released 2 interviews here on May the 1st of 2020. Have you checked out our interview with Andrew Casera that we also dropped today? It is a fantastic listen that you should also go ahead and check out if you want to support the show so that we can make it for another 100 episodes. You can do so by heading on over to I Love DTP to rep some sick Desert Tiger Podcast merch. And, well, yeah, next week on the show, we are joined by Ezra Jordan as we talk all about his new EP, Cheap Therapy. He released it in April, and we're going to be giving you all the details and some, because, you know, that's how we do it here on the Tiger. I can't wait to see you then. I hope until then that you guys stay happy, that you stay healthy, and that, well, you know, normally I say something like, go and find your mountain and climb to the top and let your voice sing. Right now it can be very difficult to do that, to stay motivated in these moments, and that's okay, because I also like to say that when you're doing that climb, some rocks fall out from underneath you. Sometimes you trip and you fall. Sometimes you stumble. That's called adversity, and that's what we're going through right now. But adversity can help make us stronger, it can help us grow, and it can help us create beautiful things. So hopefully you create something beautiful out of something that a lot of people are considering negative. So until next week, bye-bye.